I'm going to be talking about finding creative breakthrough. There's a couple pieces from Patrick's presentation that, you'll see synergy between different people talking, new businesses, what it takes to get that one piece that can unlock so much. He had a little piece around, talking to your audience and not at them. And we're talking a little bit about that here today. I'm going to come back to the answer to this, but I wanted to get a little show. Yes. I lost them. There we go. Which of these two products are the top? What are the top selling products? Okay, so I want Screaming Eagle Crotch. Who's on team Screaming Eagle Crotch? I love it.
Now we know what you're wearing. Very good.
And who is on team Greg? All right. Interesting. Now you wonder if you're right for the rest of the. I'm not even going to give you the answer. And we'll just keep rolling and see what happens. We will come back to the answer to that because I think it'll be hopefully something interesting. I know a lot the way we start thinking about all of our advertising. But I did want to take a second to say, just by being here today, you're in the top 1% of growth-minded people forum, right? Some of you are being here, but for most of you, you are here because you know the power of learning just that one thing. I mean, I've seen businesses transform overnight because someone's like, hey, you know what? You should heat map your FAQ section. I wrote that down. I was like, oh, I never thought of that. That's brilliant, right? Easy way of finding maybe a new nugget that all of a sudden, boom, changes everything. And I hope that what you take away from what I share today is not what to think when it comes to your creative and like how to think. Meaning it will be a little bit of a more of a theoretical journey, but again, it's asking yourself the right questions about your product, about your brand that can get you to crazy differences as breakthroughs. I started this because about a week or two ago, maybe 3 now, Dr. Squash sold for $1.5 billion to Yogi. Okay, which is incredible. We met Jack. He was 6 years into his business, doing $2.8 million a year at revenue, right? So this is like, he's that. He's did in treasuries 5 or 6 years. And he's just like, damn, I don't even know how big the all-natural soap market is. The answer is not going to it, right? Certainly wasn't at the time. And so a line of thinking allowed us to unlock messaging that was able to break through to much bigger audiences and transform not just the product, but the category. And so those are the type of questions and the type of things that I'm going to be sharing here today. I'm not going to go into an extensive list. We have clients in the room. We've done work with Giant. Our larger, like in terms of what we're doing right now, is certainly on the native side of things. You see the television commercials there. We do a lot of work with Procter & Gamble now and Spruce, but we also work with a lot of smaller branding startups. We started working with Drones pre-revenue. And so, we had the opportunity to help launch them. We were, I think, maybe the first investors. And they just received a $500 million valuation after 20 months. So when I said this stuff works, it works. Like if you get it right, it can have explosive growth. All right. So I want you to think this is a breakthrough that we had probably 6-7 years ago. It's just a way of thinking. It's a psychological thing. But I want you to think about the fact that you all came here probably in some kind of vehicle. You better not, right? And I want you to think to yourself, just, close your eyes. I'm not hating, but close your eyes and think about how many cars did you see on the way here? Probably you came and think of years, right? But what if you're walking and green Lamborghini rolled by? Maybe it's playing some Pitbull, maybe not. That's what I imagine to be in a green Lamborghini. Darling. But you're going down the street, and it's like your brain might be like, oh, I'm empty. Probably someone headed to DTC Growth Summit, right? You start thinking about, I don't know about you, I look at it like, oh, interesting. See, green Lamborghini, I might think, oh man, I wonder what it takes to insure a green Lamborghini. I wonder what they do for work. Your mind starts thinking about it, and then you get into where you're going, and then let's say you run into Kamal. Kamal's like, hey, she that real Lamborghini. You're like, actually, I did see one Lamborghini. And then you move on with your life. You forget you ever saw the real Lamborghini. Well, the point of all this is that we are literally defined by this thing called the reticular activating system, meaning your brain is built to ignore almost all information. Because everyone always talks about, oh, there's so many hats and there's so many this and competing for attention and all this stuff. And you hear that and it's like, well, you kind of get it. Like, you're like, oh, yeah, it's true. But when you think about the depth of this, I literally ignore so much information. I'm not going to remember what anyone's wearing in this room tomorrow. I'm not going to remember cars I saw on my way here. If you're a brand and you're getting someone to not only buy and remember you, this is what you're competing with the innate human ability and really the need to just ignore those inbound information. And so when you start from that point, it gives you a different way of thinking about your advertising, different threshold, different bar for how you're viewing what you're putting out there. And so we go through some examples, but I really want, as you go through this, hopefully there'll be a couple points where you'll start seeing some of the stuff I'm showing you differently through this new lens. So, which product sold more? Team Screaming Eagle Boxers. Now show your hands. America. There we go. Okay. Gray boxers. Let me see your hands. Okay. I love this because this is the trick to the question. Which picture sold more of these boxers? Team Screaming Eagle, let me see your hands. America. Team Gray boxers, let me see your hands. Okay. So this right here is just like an insane thought process because your thing is like, well, I sell gray boxers. I should put gray boxers in it, right? And what you start realizing, especially if you're, really any company, but especially if you're a direct consumer, you're doing imagery, this will affect your product design choices. It'll affect, it's so much more than just advertising. It is attention. And so, I'll stick on a train of Dr. Squatch to kind of keep it as a cohesive story. But like one of the biggest unlocks they ever had was our Star Wars stuff. So when we launched that, all of a sudden, your thought process goes to, oh, well, there's so many Star Wars fans out there, right? And there are. But what it did was it unlocked female buy audiences for the first time. They were never able to profitably get in front of women. So they put men's soap ads in front of women and it wouldn't do anything, no matter how fun our ads were. But as soon as they put a product in front of people that got their attention in a different way, but unlocked new audiences, they now had their Screaming Eagle boxers, right, for someone else. And so then you see a lot of rank doing that type of licensing deals. And licensing deals are a fun, smart way to test into stuff as this. You'll start seeing this quite a bit, but this is kind of a general saying. Without attention, can't sell anything. But people often want safe decisions, right? So those two things, that's why I put that Screaming Eagle boxer, gray boxer thing up, because it's like, innately we know a lot of us don't necessarily want Screaming Eagle boxers, but it will be potentially the thing that gets us to click, oh, that's interesting, what is this? And then if we just eventually make our way over to the grades, which is very true. And so, what it was interesting because we are very known for video content that we do, and being able to scale that, making ads that people could just keep spending money behind and it just continues to sell and sell. And one of our first ahas was, we were working with Dr. Spitzer black bar soap against a white towel. That image just crushed. Yeah, don't use that term lightly because people throw it out of crush. They crushed. And I think the reason is especially at the time, no one ever seen a black bar soap. And being against the white things, it was enough to be that sort of re-Lamborghini moment as we're scrolling through her feeds. And so you'll start seeing it quite a bit. It's like Ridge, like check out their ads. See how many times you have an orange wallet. Some people have a crazy pattern. It's like ultimately people are buying a lot of neutral tones, right? They're 24 karat gold wallets. Yeah, real thing around the room. I'm like, yeah, I got break. I'm not color fiend on it, despite my outfit. So it is interesting. You'll start to see it everywhere. Car commercials. Start paying attention to car commercials. It's like, man, I was on a lot the other day, and like they literally only had neutral tones on the lot, but like so many crews and like big bold colors in the commercials, and that's not by acid or state. So even as you're going through, maybe you go through like your battle libraries or whatever today, start looking at what you're looking at as well. Am I putting forward my best sellers? Am I putting across stuff that's just so neutral that like maybe altering just not packaging a little bit, altering whatever that might be, might give me a shot at breaking through to people and getting them to stop. So, jumping off of this last presentation, how do you know if you're talking to your audience or at them? It is a fundamental question. I'm going to show you what I think is the well-meaning reason why we run into this trap. And to be clear, when I say we run into this trap, I run into this trap too. I was working on something recently for ourselves, and I got halfway into it. I was like, oh no, just broke every rule that I'd ever ton up. Like it is so hard not to do this. So you might have heard this. This is a famous saying, Simon Sinek. It's big by it. People don't buy your what, they buy your what, right? And so, this, I want to explain this as like a series of interesting breakthroughs. But there was a point in time where everybody thought that the world was flat. Let's spew you mics. I'm like a rant. I don't like a shit.
That's directed right near Legos right there.
Yeah, like guy. That's the guy in the LA Valley. Yeah. No, he knows. He knows. The time where we thought the world was flat, and if I go back to the 80s and 90s, even there was a lot of thought process around like you need to know your company's values, right? It was like our mission statement, like that was what was info. That's what everyone did, and then we had this breakthrough. Whoa, world was a pulse RAM, and we could sail around and do different things, right? I would say that this is a little bit of the Simon Sinek breakthrough, where it's like, that's a big deal. Like, people don't buy what you do or how you do. They buy why you do this, like, emotional connection to a greater purpose, that type of like mindset. And I want to be very clear. You should know this about your book. That you should know why your why. But even after that, even after we found out the world was round, we thought that the Earth was the center of the universe. Which is, kind of a crazy thought. Like, that orientation is very interesting when you realize, like, no, we actually just revolve around the sun. And so, the brands that, yes, we're working with, but also the brands that I see doing this really well, they realize that they're not the center of people's universes. The people are the center of their own universe. Like, we revolve around that, right? I always say that everything we do, everything we buy, it doesn't matter if it's a service, a good, even showing up today, everything we buy is a reflection of who we believe we are today or who we believe we want to become. And it's that simple. It's like every action is based on those two thoughts. And so it's like, no offense, I'm not thinking about, the original brain, their why and why they're selling their watches. I'm like, oh, I think it looks good and I like it. I think it reflects my style, And so when you realize that people don't buy your why, they buy their own look, right? So a lot of times we haven't asked ourselves, what is their why as the consumer, as a customer? I'll give you like the exercise that you could do to kind of start to pull at this thought process. Because once you start pulling, it'll get you the potential of really breaking through with your message. And so when you look at this, this was the unlock with Salad Squash. Because, the founder was very, very passionate about them because there's a reason he started making his own soap. He said, now I got like vital skin conditions. This could heal people. And it's like, yes. And that brought in $2.8 billion a year sales, right? Like it's like that only goes so far. How are we going to get people excited about the opportunity to buy a bar of soaps for as much as they could buy a third pack from Costco, right? Like that's talking about major gap. We're not even selling this soap, right? We're selling essentially self-worth. We're selling return on joy instead of like anything else. Like I want to enjoy this thing. And so the messaging transformed from, I created Dr. Squash because I couldn't find soaps that didn't dry my skin, or we believe that men deserve real soap, to things like soap you're showering with is shit. You're still using the same soap, or your mommy bond for her little man. Or you're not a dish, you're an egg. Which actually has a line that did not make its way in and out multiple scripts and ended up being in an ad that did over 500 million views on YouTube, right? Like this was probably one of the biggest scaling YouTube ad in history. And that line, you're not a dish, you're a man, it's all about self-worth, right? It's just a guy squirting, dish like body wash on a dish to breaking in. This is not about the USP of like, you won't tractor suit. Wow, like love how supple it is or how I smell, right? It really is a self-worth statement. And it speaks to people's whys. And so I want to show you another example of like how brands get really stuck on this. Seed is an example of someone who has not gotten stuck on it. I think it's really interesting. It's like a lot of brands get in this mindset of like, well, like we are so aesthetically pure, and this is about science. Like we would never, talk about poop, right? Well, I guarantee you, I don't know to see people. I just could up their line, right? See how much talks about poop. This is what sells, right? This does not sell. This is our, this all effort we put in and how rigorous we tested it, and like how many brands do you see that's like talking about themselves? Like this is why we exist, and this is all the energy we put into it. Is all this stuff. It's like someone's like, I just want to poop, right? And I have actually said this quite a few times to people. I'm like, there are 3 things that will get you to move. It's like, I can't breathe, I can't poop, and the third one is I can't sleep. Like if you can't do those 3 things, like you're like, I'm looking for answers. And so when you start thinking about, okay, what is my why? I mean, you could see where you have to drill down so much more than like what we believe our reason to exist is. And so this is the exercise that I would do, because I think it's like it really helps to strip away some of the noise. And that is someone's wearing a shirt with your logo on it. Okay, so forget about this. This helps strip it away because you're not thinking about the product anymore. They're just wearing your shirt with your product on it. I'm gonna pick on somebody. You got their growth Zacks, okay? Yeah. So they were wearing a shirt as like growth Zacks on, right? Well, what would they be saying? What would you want them to, and what are they saying? What are they projecting to the world by wearing that? What do they believe about themselves? Who are they aspiring to become? What do they doubt, right? You start asking yourself these questions, and you start to get, you right now, so you get basically an input, 20 ideas that come out of doing this exercise of like, okay, ultimately, what are I really selling? What are they really saying of themselves? And if you remember, I started out this whole talk, the slide, talking about, hey, just by being here, you're in the top 1% of the world. It took true growth my fitness, that you are the kind of person that knows of one great tip. Like that is all messaging that maps it back to that is true. It's like, it's universally true. Like, you're here, that's why you're here, right? But it feels really good to have someone here back, right? And so that's what gets really fun about brands is when they start doing this, it becomes this self-cycle because it makes people feel really good. If you're like, yeah, you're really like, I am that person. I am that kind of person. I am putting in more energy and effort than the next person. Why I'm going to win. This is another, we talked now 3 minutes about talking to your audience instead of at your audience. And I'm going to end the presentation with like a side-by-side video where we can kind of start feeling some differences. But one of the big indicators to me is when you say things like we, like if the language says we or us instead of you or your, when we think about it, it is quite literally the difference between talking to your audience versus at your audience. You're saying, well, we make the best difference, right? It's like, like, cool, good for you. If you're like, hey, you're looking for your best. Oh, okay, yeah, right. But it's really interesting to see and feel how it looks. I'll also say anything that's done that needs context, the video wise, before you like jump into it, it's already a problem, right? It's already a problem. Like if you need to like set the stage with B-roll or like give it context for it to make sense, it's already a problem. I'm not gonna show examples of that today, but really all you're doing there is to say you're more concerned about what you want to say rather than what they want to see or hear as the audience. And I'll also say we notice this quite a bit is that a lot of times in video especially, it's tempting to start with like wider shots that could set the scene or set the stage for what you're about to see. But we just see over and over again that something that's tighter, like person-to-person speaking screen, something that's like people looking at people or people looking at product or people looking at something interesting happening, the tighter, the more like intimate that you could be in the beginning, the better. Again, it's like the backfiring of good attention. It's like, oh, I want to show context. They'll have a wide shot of whatever's happening. It's like always start closer. You don't want to pull out wider. Okay, I'm going to see if this plays in a second. So I want to show you this ad because I think it's a great example of a coordination of like what you're going to see and feel. It's we language. It's an ad that you see. I swear if you remember this in 7 days later, like you got a problem. You got like, you know what I mean? Like but it's made by one of the biggest brands in the world with so much research and so much testing and so much fill in the blank, right?
We really had a hell spot with our churros.
Yeah, substantially. Throw out the puppy.
Sure, our pies is cute together, but now we got our states.
And double yours.
Thankfully, we also have title tracksy with our ears. It can have a double shot. It can sit on the steak.
And the number one odor remover.
I thought you got growled it.
With the number one safe player and odor, it got to be tied.
It's like on the surface, you're like, oh, it's an ad. Like Hong.
I've seen it 20 times. Football boys. Like, I've seen that ad, but I do remember it. But you wish we should.
So there you go. They've seen it 20 times and they remember it. And so I think, and I will say this is important. Something like a tie has the money to show 20 times. What if you're on Tide? Wireless don't have a $2-3 billion brand in here. So it's like we need our stuff to punch so much harder. It's gotta have that green Lamborghini moment in it. So this is a brand that we helped incubate launch Fuzz Laundry Sauce. It's a premium laundry experience. And I wanted to show you an ad we did for them. This is one that is their best performing ad across platforms in terms of what scale, what worked. And a nugget for it actually came from a still image. It was a quote from an actual customer. I said, "Unfortunately, it's really fucking good," right? And it was just like, that's really funny because it's this reverse psychology of like, if you try it, like just be warned that you're going to make a switch to a more expensive experience, but you can't go back, you know? And so this was the ad that we created.
Unfortunately, it's really
My life was simple, predictable, routine. My boyfriend wanted to try it. Sent me some on the internet. I should know.
And it's what everything else for me.
When I start producing.
From the second I started using laundry sauce, the world's best smelling laundry gloss, was my girlfriend that got 4 new ones.
I lost my job with management. They made me CEO. So much power.
people just can't get enough of this Indonesian, but
Rice saffron, Australian sandalwood, Egyptian rose,
Siberian pie.
and other smells have become meaningless. Get out of my life, you beautiful smelling pot. I never used to think about laundry. It was just a boring chore. Now I can't stop.
If you value your alone time,
And if you want in life to stay exactly like it is and never change or get better,
If you want your laundry day to stay boring,
if you want your laundry and your life to smell average,
you don't want to feel like a literal Nuffy star every time you do laundry. Don't go laundrysalts.com.
don't go to laundrysauce.com. Don't go to laundrysauce.com.
don't go to lavasauce.com.
Go laundrysauce.com.
And what I want to point out about that particular ad is, and I think important, the reason that we decided to incubate and invest in that and help launch it is what they're solving is that laundry is it's a chore. You have to do it. It's typically a lot of goopy chemicals, or you throw it in your pot. It's a chore. And their product, what it does provide, is almost more of a self-care experience, something that adds a little bit of joy. It's really, to hear the feedback though from customer base that loves it. It's like it took something that was so boring and made it something that actually had to look forward to. You get that moment where the towels come out of the dryer. You had this has such a great scent. And I think there's also a bit of self-work wrapped in that. We realize that, they're very much in the one-to-one of if you've ever flown first class and then you sit back at the middle seat on a airplane and you're like, oh God, that was so nice that time. I was in first class, now middle seat on West. And so there's these tensions, right? As no one needs expensive laundry detergent. They don't, right? But there's a reason, never said tens of millions of dollars worth of it, right? That people have an innate desire to have a reflection of who they are today, who they're wanting to become, and really will push them back against Alzheimer's a boring experiment. So a lot of your products do I want you to think about that. But a lot of people, there's a lot of value switching off against what can be a boring experience. Real quick plug for this: my business partner at Wire puts out a weekly email newsletter, and it's fantastic. So if you like insights, honestly, if you're here, just pick up this, because it's operator minded type of pieces around what's working, what's not, literal week to week breakthroughs of what we're doing. As long as it's not too proprietary, we share it. But yeah, we have 40 plus clients, and they're all trying to punch above their weight, all trying to make big moves. And this is my personal contact information if you wanted to follow me on LinkedIn, whatever, get in touch. Stat on it, but what didn't have up for that? Okay. Just kidding. I never do. I think that's my final slide. So thank you for letting you present. This was a lot of fun. I think we have some Q&A with Bill.
Yeah, let's hear Jacques Spitzer.
So this Q&A for me is going to be spicier maybe than others. So, John, if you want to play the fifth at any moment, you're welcome to. The question I have is, in a world of creative volume and creative volume testing through paid advertising, etc., you operate in a world where you go in, film what you know will work, edit, function, build a whole plethora of things, and then go kill it and crush every single person. So when every guru in the world is telling everyone that they need more creative volume, why do you guys execute at such a high level on one key concept, execute, crush, kill it for so many brands?
Yeah, wow. So there's a couple reasons for that. There's channel specific reasons, and then there's the the brain never gave you, right? But you want to make something that people are going to stop and watch and remember. It takes more effort. It just does, right? Like the one thing that I constantly think about is like before we write even the script, we put at least 50 hours into the development of what's the concept in what was a situation that someone's going to watch. Also, the channel questions, right? Meta, which a lot of people here as like the table stakes for VC. Meta can do so well with UGC, with statics, right? And so when you have UGC and statics, you're able to spend against them and do it cheaply. And Mike also, you can do it cheaply, right? It's like if there's such a low barrier to like getting it out there, you get cheaply. We'll be fine with brands, and this is why we track your brands. Is like brands will get to, it could be 10, 20, $50 million, and they're stuck. And part of that stuckness is they don't have a brand voice. They don't have anything coming from their brand. It's all just fragmented pieces and their whole brand experience is someone clicking on a still image and hitting a landing page, just like, oh, what do I know about the brand? Like that brand that Patty showed earlier with the the I love you thing. Like, ooh, like, I mean, imagine the video content you can make for them. I know that UTC does well, but underneath it, so the whole lot of like, you could see where they could own the sense of long distance fluff, right? They could own that sense. The reason I said is that and channel is that, if you want to win on YouTube is one of these brands or one of these channels where, I'm actually presenting tomorrow at Google with Brad, where Brad is, because we had so much success on YouTube because there's such a huge audience there. I mean, YouTube literally hits every single age demographic from like child to, the boomer audience, right? Like everyone's on it. But it's one of those things where it's like to create creative that works on that platform is hard. It takes like understanding how to structure it, understanding how to build the storyline that people are going to not just book into, but continue and then actually take purchase on it. And then we actually do about half hours for television or CTV. I might do the humble brag, just for brag. What's fun is that when we start getting sucked into the Procter & Gamble universe, some of our ads are the top performing testing ads in their organization, which has gotten us these opportunities like launch sprouts and everything else. And it's because fundamentally, a lot of them are more interested in like, what's their formula? I mean, start paying attention to that. They're formulaic. And it's like all of our stuff flicks that and goes, are people going to remember it first? And that's ultimately what tests well is people later on are like, I remember that brand, right? Because the big brand lift, you're not talking about their goal being completely at retail is not how many units am I moving in this one ad. It's like, do people remember the brand for every amount of money I'm spending, just overall sales lift, and do I get brand awareness? So we do a lot of stuff for 75% of what we're doing is television, YouTube, and then it makes its way into YouTube and Meta. But I just wanted to if I'm out there, I wouldn't like hire an agency to make higher quality, high fidelity sense commercial just for that. That's not a good idea. And I think that's part of that's a long-winded answer, but it is that complicated. And honestly, most people are that's like the number one question. Where's Jacob? It's the number one question we get on when it calls, right? Everyone's like, can you make me the best meta ad ever? And it's like, well, no, that's actually not the right approach.
Well, I don't think that's what I said when I got on the top.
It was not you. No, you were talking about tube in day one.
And so again, when I'm saying this all, like I've gone through the process, and I told Jacques before we did this a couple of days ago that I owe him to come back around.
He's that too busy growing by hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's not to sugarcoat it. Yes, but at the same time, I think that what I said to him then, and where I'm going to get to with the next part of the question, right? Yeah, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, fundamental parts of what you do. Google, fundamental parts of what you do. But I think that one of the areas that everybody is always lagging on is you follow the trends that everybody else does. And if you want an asymmetric return, you have to do asymmetric things, which means that if you want to win somewhere in a way that other people are not, you have to do things that other people are not doing. That's pretty much also the premise of Raindrop in general. They're doing ads that other people aren't doing. Huge white space where they can win and win and win and win. The challenge I think everybody's thinking right now, right, is I can't afford a 40-person crew to do production. I can't do the same things that Gruns, this, that. So, Jacques, from your perspective, how can some of the people here, what's that one step forward maybe in quality if they wanted to start to experience what long-form YouTube looked like and how to get in there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I want to come up with this. I do want to make sure I am answering this question once, because I think one of the more interesting things that we get is everyone wants a home run, no one wants to swing the shots. Right? It's like they're like, okay, so like, how can I make a $10,000 ad that like will bring me $100 million in return? It's like okay, it doesn't quite work that way. It never has. And Bruins is an interesting example where it's like Chad from day one was like, I'm gonna raise money, I'm gonna go fast and hard, I'm gonna own this category. I mean, and he did. He went fast and hard, and owned the category. Now anyone comes out, which they will come out, then they go, they're no, not fast, right? Like he was able to create that mode, and that's what I've noticed a lot of rants. It's like there's a point where it makes sense to make that sort of like jump or investment into higher fidelity content, and I think they go hand in hand into getting into secondary channels, because that's, when your business is basically is meta having a good or bad day for me, you'll never break through to that like next plateau, because you have to have multiple channels working for you. You have to find new audiences, cheaper audiences too, a lot of times. So they kind of go hand, they do go hand in hand. I don't think of it, when people work with us, I don't think of it as like an investment in a video. I look at it as an investment in the way of thinking about the brand, and hopefully finding new channels as well, and testing into them and getting learnings from that. And then if people do come to us and say, hey, I want a long form video, I want an up in your right off edit, I'd be like, I'm not taking your money, it's not good for these are. Right. So yeah.
Yeah, again, Tim, for everybody, I think that with that, there's a way for you to increase production. It probably makes more sense for you to start with organic for yourself.
Yeah, and no, you want to like I think you could reverse engineer a lot of great ads even by just asking creators. Like I look at that laundry soft stream, like technically you could create something very fun and simple with just people with UTC and stitching it together as like one piece. And then that's like a really crude example, but it's like, the story still works. And we're going to see this too with like, obviously people talk a lot about AI and everything else. It's like good storytelling always wins, right? It's just true.
Awesome. Does anybody have any other questions? I know I hijacked that about in there, but I thought it was good for everyone because everyone here, I assume, is in different stages of the business. What do we have? We're on that side. Perfect.
Yeah, we're watching Living Up. I was size ran you say the very kind start makes you
Yeah. Okay, so it's an interesting question because I'm going to say this from a couple different ways. It's amazing to me how a brand we have come to us who are only on one channel. And so meaning we have brands that come to us and they're like, we only sell on it. That's all around $100 million in sales, right? I have brands that come to us and they're $50 million in sales and they're only on YouTube. They're like, can't get that to work for us, right? Because a part of it too is like where, or television, we see that a lot. So like, we all assume that, because this is a DTC Growth Summit, like that probably that is the base. And it is like that is the base hub for a shiny right? Say the biggest place. So there's two places that we send to see. We see brands who are proactive of just they're like, we know we want to get to a secondary channel. We want to be in a secondary channel, and this is a priority to us. We're going to figure out TV, or we are going to figure out YouTube. A lot of times their competitors might be with. Right. And they're like, yeah, like, how long should I wait before I do that? I would say most of the brands that we work with are
north of $5 billion in sales, right? Like just kind of a general spot where that makes sense. And then if you're like closing in at 20 million and you're not investing, then that to me it's just a matter of time before you're going to run into, well, either I don't want to figure out other stuff, I need to figure out other stuff, or you run the risk of a competitor seeing that you're doing well and then just going like, half the time I'm like, should I just like quit what I'm doing, see what everyone's doing, running into that threshold and that just spin off something and like get to work on TV and YouTube as well. You know what I mean? Because it's like, we all know there's a point where that saturates and you can only do so much. So I hope that it's a very broad answer, but I think that makes sense. And also the biggest thing is if you are a brand with a high CPM on Meta, oh boy, that's where it's exciting, right? Like if you're paying more for your CPMs on Meta and you can go to YouTube and get traffic at 1/5 the cost, or even television at 1/2 the cost, like that's where you are like, oh god.
So I actually think I can add some depth to that because again, talking that I'm still in the process of Job wants to land BL and I want to land Job, right? So Inside reached out to him when we were basing to do $20 to $30 million, recognizing that I already had a huge organic side of what I do. YouTube is a big part of our strategy. We're doing YouTube organic. We have a few videos, hundreds of thousands of views. So we figured out internally what that looked like. When I talked to Jacques, I actually asked around. So I have a few different friends in the industry. One of them, Sean Frank, said that what was my distribution like? Did I have the ability to spend to it? Because there's the rule of thumb is if you're going to spend X amount of dollars, you'd be able to spend 10 times that amount on that ad, right? So if I'm going to spend, let's call it $50,000, $100,000 on an ad, can you spend $500,000, to $1 million on that ad, right? If you don't think just that one ad, you have the distribution for that. So now go even further. If I'm going to spend $500,000 on an ad, right? Can I generate $5 million from that? Can I spend $5 million on? So for me, I didn't have the distribution. I wasn't on YouTube. I wasn't on CTV. I wasn't on a few different things. So I had spent the last year testing, going to things, trying to figure out the distribution side so that I can do the fully effective way of doing it. And that comes with, for me, I didn't have the experience, right? So for everybody here, you might feel like that's out of my depth. I've never done it. I don't know. It shouldn't scare you, right? Take these calls, do these things, hear what's going on, but start setting it up. And as he just said, when we got to $20, $30 million, I had already invested a lot in organic. So I get a lot of traffic from that. I turned my website off in December of last year. We still generated $5 million in sales with no ads, right? So I know that we can do that. If you can't, what is the other thing? As he said, your CPMs are rising on Facebook. Everybody knows their costs are going up. You have to diversify to some degree, start testing, start trying, start figuring out where you go. And I think that as a size of the brand, it doesn't matter where you're at. It's just where you think your person lives. I know that everybody here, your person lives on.
Let me just finally. I do want to say this. One of the things that really pushed me up Johnny is he's not an agency hater. So thank you, Johnny. And I laugh because, a lot of these brands, they did get that breakthrough from working with a partner, and so when it comes to new channels, man, oh man, use someone that knows what they're doing. I'm looking at Brett back there where we talk about YouTube twice. If you try to run YouTube by yourself, you will fail. I promise. This is like me. You will fail. I just can't tell. The number of times that we've given a brand and they're we're going to run it, and then they fail. And it didn't work. And then we give it to one of our media partners that knows what they're doing. And all of a sudden it's 40% of their spend now, right? It is because a lot of these platforms are not set up like Meta to work with DTC brands. The bigger spenders on TV, on YouTube, on any other channel is LVMH, Amazon, Disney, movie, premiere posters, car ads. They're not set up out of the box to work for us in this room. And so if you feel like I tried that and then failed, or if I like to say, you go off into an attic and you're well, that was scary. I don't want to go back there again. You can win in these spaces. It's just, you do want to work with somebody that's basically failed before and knows how to get you oriented. So yeah, I did want to say that because I'm the last thing I want to do is send everybody out and yes, we're going to figure out new channels coming out of this. And I'm yes, but please work with somebody. I think that's what they're doing.
Another question over there.
I was wondering if you could clarify your thing that you're talking about. Do you equally spend 10 times or without what
Yes.
you're buying?
Yeah, so you got to be able to spend 10 times the amount you spent on the creation of the app. So if you're going to invest $250,000 into the app, you should be willing to spend $2.5 million behind it. So there.
Well,
This is what I wanted when I said I had the normal NC experience, right? Tell me why that's wrong, right? Because that's what, again, like I said, Sean Crank, Operators Pilot Grab, all that stuff. That's what they're telling people in private meetings is the same kind of thing. And I know that Simple Modern, Intrek, it did ads, they'd done stuff.
it's because, okay, that's a good point. It's because that mindset is coming from, from a non-scalable mindset. So what I mean by that is it's like, if you're looking at a brand awareness play or brand awareness, but Simple Modern or brand awareness play, yep, right? It's like, we're already doing $200 billion. We're in like all these stores. People are buying our products, so they don't even know that there are products. Like, you know what I mean? Because we haven't created any sort of like emotional connection to it. That's a different approach. The Groons and the Dr. Splotches and like, the natives and like all these groups that we worked with to grow them. Yeah, I should rattle off like all of them. It's like, She Raised Sunglasses, like it's Coffee, all these groups where they've grown by like tens of millions, if the hundreds of millions. They're looking at it more like, I have creative this return on these channels. If I want to and need to crack scalability on a channel, like I need to create the type of creative that gets me to spending more on that channel. And I never talked to a partner and said, hey, if you're gonna make an out of this, you better be ready to spend $5 million. Because the mindset of that is like basically spend and hope it works. That's not what you're doing here, right? It's like, no, I'm putting it into the platform and it's giving us the return and the ability to spend more. And so you end up spending millions behind them, right? And if you don't have an inventory or you don't have the ability to scale, like that's one thing. But I mean, I've never talked to a partner and been like, but yeah, you have to extra budget for media day one, but then no one would ever do it, right? Because then you have this mindset to like, okay.
But if it's not 10x, then what is it next? Baseline, it's still 2, 3, 4x that you still want to keep somewhere.
Right. So it's a good question. And we're looking at different channels, right? But I think the best way to think about it is it's like, okay, in order to be on these channels, I want to invest in getting into the channel, right? And so it is like a bit of a, how much am I spending? If you're spending, $300,000 a month on media versus $1 million versus $2 million, that's going to change your appetite threshold to taste risks, right? There's that reality. But that's why I'm like, I want to be very clear, based on that math and that logic, that's coming from people running $200 million brands right now. And so that's just a different world. What we're looking at is like, okay, what is essentially your ROAS on Meta? Like, what would your ROAS have to be on YouTube in order to be on par, right, with what you're hoping for your return? And then you start spending against that. And if you can hit that amount, a lot of times it becomes basically infinitely scalable. And a lot of people just never get to what is my YouTube number, what does it need to be in order to make it infinitely scalable. They're trying to get it to be like the best performing static ad they have on Meta, which is like, that's not how it works and never will for a variety of reasons. So once they figure out this and they start fueling this and they see everything rising, their direct traffic, their Meta everything starts like rising, then they start bumping it up. Oh, I'm spending $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, like, and they just keep cranking it up over time. And so it is but that's between you and your media buyer, your team, like figuring out what those targets need to be, because they're so different for every brand. I just want to make sure I don't walk away today and no one will ever try another channel, because no one will ever have $5 million. So it could worse. So yeah.
Now what I'm trying to get, I want everybody to try another channel, and I think I should try YouTube.
I'm laughing at the
I do want to say this is going to be, I think, has to be the last question. If everybody's super about this, if we have time before lunch, we're going to sit down and we have it. Alex, I promise we're going to come back to you. Last question, and we're ready to choose date for our next up.
I was actually going to chime in on the Teddy budget.
this goes from the perspective of digital marketing agency. Really, hands on do it for YouTube from that will not be a secret sponsor of the when they're planning out for a year, it's not a spends $250,000 on ads or employee spends $2.5 million. So when they're thinking about for plannings or next year, it's save 5 to 10% of their media. These are cuts out their media spend. It's like this will be to spend next year across our channels, get this return or something thing. We say brands do not skin undercut budget. Sure can do that to be 10%. Whatever you board and have that deliberately go get channels where great eats are there. What happens in practice is you might spend $200,000 on big brand activation that does well on YouTube. You choose at least certain century.
I just had to pull it real quick. Do you have a question? Because if we're not, appreciate that insight. Everybody, excellent job. Again, Jacques Spitzer, thank you so much for your time.